Tonnie van Mourik didn't look like a criminal. He had a friendly face, a calm voice, and the smile of a businessman. Those who met him never imagined that behind his gentle manners was one of Amsterdam's most important cocaine smugglers during the 1980s and early 1990s. He was born and raised in Amsterdam, a city full of trade, opportunity, and secrets. In the post-war years, smuggling was almost a tradition. From cigarettes to gold, people found ways to survive. Tonnie grew up watching the clever ones get rich without ever having a regular job. As a young man, Tonnie worked in bars and nightclubs. He knew everyone, dealers, sailors, and businessmen. He understood that money moved through friendship and trust. That was his gift. People trusted him easily. In the late 1970s, he met Klaas Bruinsma, the rising star of the Dutch drug trade. Bruinsma was bold, ambitious, and dangerous. Tonnie was the opposite, quiet, organized, and calm. Together, they made a perfect combination. At that time, Amsterdam was becoming Europe's gateway for cocaine. The demand was exploding. Smugglers needed reliable men to move their product. Tonnie became one of them. Not through violence, but through brains and charm. Unlike other criminals, Tonnie never shouted or fought. He wore clean suits, spoke politely, and handled his business like a banker. People called him the Gentleman Smuggler. He didn't just want money, he wanted class. Klaas Bruinsma taught him how to build an empire. Secret routes, coded messages, and trusted men. Bruinsma's rule was simple. Loyalty first, greed second. Tonnie followed that rule faithfully, at least for a while. Together with Bruinsma, Tonnie helped manage drug routes from Colombia through Spain and into the Netherlands. Millions of guilders passed through their hands every month. The cocaine trade was unstoppable, and so were they. Tonnie stayed in the background. While Bruinsma appeared in headlines and made enemies, Tonnie preferred silence. He didn't carry guns or make threats. He just handled the money. That's what made him hard to catch. By the mid-1980s, Tonnie owned luxury houses, cars, and boats. But he never flaunted them. He lived quietly, investing in legal businesses to hide his illegal wealth. To the public, he looked like a successful entrepreneur. Tonnie became part of Bruinsma's trusted circle. Men like Willem Holleder, Cor van Hout, and Sam Klepper. Together, they formed a network that dominated Amsterdam's underworld. But power always brings jealousy. As Bruinsma's empire grew, cracks began to appear. Some members wanted more control. Arguments turned into threats. The once loyal brothers of crime began to see each other as competition. Tonnie tried to stay neutral, but in the underworld, neutrality can be fatal. Dutch authorities began to notice Tonnie's name. Investigations into drug shipments pointed toward his businesses. Still, he moved carefully. He never touched drugs himself, and all money went through layers of companies and fake accounts. Tonnie lived a double life. By day, he was a calm businessman who attended meetings and drank coffee with bankers. By night, he managed millions from the cocaine trade. Even his closest family didn't know the full truth. In 1991, Klaas Bruinsma was assassinated in front of the Amsterdam Hilton Hotel. His death shocked the underworld. Suddenly, the empire had no leader. Rival gangs and ex-partners began fighting for control. Tonnie found himself in the middle of a war he never wanted. Without Bruinsma's leadership, everything fell apart. Old loyalties turned into betrayals. The police intensified their raids. Everyone was talking, and everyone was afraid. Tonnie tried to hold things together, but the network was collapsing. Unlike others who used guns to survive, Tonnie preferred negotiation. He tried to keep the peace between rival groups. But peace is impossible in a world built on crime. The bullets always come eventually. Authorities began targeting Tonnie directly. Financial records linked him to suspicious transfers and offshore accounts. Investigators knew he was part of something big, but Tonnie never spoke. He always had a calm answer and a legal explanation. Finally, in the mid-1990s, police raided his properties. They found documents, ledgers, and coded notes. Tonnie was arrested. Newspapers called it the fall of the Gentleman Smuggler. Cameras flashed as he was taken away in handcuffs, silent, composed, and expressionless. His trial drew massive attention. Prosecutors called him a key figure in the European cocaine trade. Tonnie sat quietly, listening carefully. He never argued. He never panicked. He simply waited for the storm to pass. His lawyers argued that Tonnie was just a businessman who trusted the wrong people. They said there was no proof he personally handled drugs. It was a clever defense, and it worked better than anyone expected. The court convicted him, but the sentence was lighter than predicted. Some said he had powerful friends in high places. Others said the police simply couldn't prove enough. Tonnie smiled slightly as he left the courtroom. Still a free man, at least for now. Rumors spread that Tonnie had hidden millions of guilders before his arrest. Some said the money was in Spain. Others claimed it was in Swiss accounts under fake names. But Tonnie never confirmed or denied anything. He just said, "I'm retired." After prison, Tonnie tried to live quietly. He avoided the media, stayed out of bars, and stopped attending old gatherings. But once you've lived in the shadows, peace never lasts long. By the 2000s, new players had taken over, men like Gwinnett Martha and Ridwan Taghi. They were younger, ruthless, and used technology to run their empires. Tonnie belonged to another time, a time of silent deals and face-to-face trust. Tonnie watched as Amsterdam became more violent. Drive-by shootings, car bombs, and revenge killings filled the news. The old underworld had become a war zone. He often told friends, "We used to do business. These boys do war." Even after all those years, Klaas Bruinsma's shadow still hung over him. Reporters and investigators always linked Tonnie's name back to the old boss. It was a name he could never escape. Now and then, the police reopened old files. His name always appeared, not as a suspect, but as a man who knew too much. Still, they never found new evidence. Tonnie had built his wall of silence too well. He spent his later years between the Netherlands and Spain. He invested in small businesses, met few people, and avoided attention. The days of glory were gone, replaced by quiet walks and old memories. Tonnie often reflected on the past. He had made millions, yes, but he had also lost friends, peace, and family trust. Crime had given him everything and taken everything back. Younger gangsters still spoke his name with respect. To them, he represented a time when crime was business, not chaos. A man who made millions without firing a single shot. Writers and filmmakers began including him in stories about the old Dutch drug wars. His name appeared beside legends like Bruinsma, Holleder, and Klepper. Some called him the quiet power behind the empire. Even after retirement, journalists tried to interview him, but Tonnie never told his story. He preferred silence. "Talking only makes things worse," he once said. And in his world, that was the truth. Most of his old allies were dead or imprisoned. The once powerful brotherhood of smugglers had disappeared. Only memories and unsolved secrets remained. As he aged, his health began to fail. He spent most days at home, surrounded by silence. Yet even in weakness, he carried the calm dignity that once made him feared. To this day, no one knows exactly how much money Tonnie van Mourik made or where it went. Police files remain incomplete. His name still appears in documentaries, always surrounded by mystery. His life taught one strange lesson. In crime, manners can be more powerful than guns. He used words instead of bullets, patience instead of panic. And that made him dangerous in his own quiet way. With his passing, the old Dutch underworld truly ended. The new generation may have more power, but they lack the discipline and code of men like Tonnie van Mourik. Some remember him as a criminal. Others see him as a businessman who got lost in the wrong world. But everyone agrees. Tonnie van Mourik played the game better than most and lived long enough to see it change forever. At the end of his story, one question still echoes. Was he a villain who disguised himself as a gentleman? Or a gentleman who lost himself in a villain's world?